You're on.
And we're live. And boy, it was with hiccups today, wasn't it? And thank you for those of you that are here and patient while I was trying to get on live. So Bonnie has saved the day. I set it up wrong and it had to have two people, and I was trying to get Paul on, but Bonnie jumped in. So I'm just really excited that she came on and saved the day so that I could do the broadcast that I have advertised and promoted. So thank you, Bonnie.
You are very welcome. And I love your story. So I want everyone to hear it.
And you've heard it before because you interviewed me on your show once and I told you my story. So you're just going to have to sit through my story one more time. And
I love the story. It's a great one.
And hopefully Paul is on. He was trying to help me get hooked up and then Bonnie jumped in. So Paul was, bless his heart, a sweetheart trying to help me. So yeah, thank you for those of you that have tuned in, and hopefully people can find us after that little hiccup getting started. See, we all have issues with tech, right?
It's our friend sometimes.
Yeah, no kidding. It can be. It can be. So anyway, welcome to the eCommerce show, everybody. And I'm so glad you're here. So please say hi and tell us in the comments where you're tuning in from. We have Irene and Athena and Kelly and Kay. And we're happy to have you here, and hopefully Paul can find his way on and others as they come. So today, I am so excited about the show today because I am going to, Paul's going, I'm concerned it won't let me in. Let me hurry and tell him. Bonnie jumped on. Okay, so we don't have to worry. Sorry about that, guys. You know tech, it can be a hiccup. Next week, we'll make sure we have it all figured out. So anyway, for today's show, I am so excited to talk about my story and share it with you and some of the lessons that I've learned, because a lot of you don't realize that I started out as a handmade product, and I know that's where a lot of you are. So I'm going to go through my story, how I scaled my business from startup to 8 figures, and then I'm going to incorporate lessons that I learned that you can apply no matter where you are in your business. So thank you again, Bonnie, and sorry you have to sit through lessons that I learned that you can apply no matter where you are in your business. And now we're having voice tech issues. There we go. Okay, so Bonnie, are you getting now we're having more tech issues with sound. Can everybody hear me okay without the?
That was just me. I was sharing it out. So that's why.
Okay. That's why I was doing it. I thought it was me. I was closing out everything, but thank you for sharing. So awesome. So anyway, we'll get started. So for those of you that don't know me, I'm Becky J. Anderson, and I am a product-based business coach at BeckyJAnderson.com. And I'm your host of the eCommerce show, this weekly show that we have here on Facebook Live. And I work with entrepreneurs with products that want to master their marketing, achieve more sales, and create a brand that's a real product-based business on a daily basis. And I have Bonnie sitting here with me, for those of you that haven't met her, from BonnieFrank.com. So she's my co-host, unplanned, but here, and thank goodness she jumped in to help us. So we're just going to dive in and make poor Bonnie sit through my story, and she can answer comments and help those along the way. So thank you for that, Bonnie. So today we're starting, we'll talk about where I started. So for those of you that haven't heard my story before, I lived on a farm and an apple orchard, and I had 4 daughters. And a lot of you don't know this, but I had 5 stepkids too. So I was married to another guy at the time. So I was raising 9 kids when this happened. So you can imagine what it was like, a crazy, busy mom living on a farm, raising all these kids. But the last 4 kids, the last 4 kids were my daughters, and they were all girls. And I came home one day and my daughter was driving a tractor. And I just about freaked out because she was 13 or 14 at the time. And my husband said, well, the kids are going to learn the value of the dollar and hard work. And I said, yeah, I do agree with that. But I don't want them to do it on a tractor. I didn't want them, to roll over and get killed. You hear of all those horror stories and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So I started looking for something that I could do that would be a hobby for me and something for my girls to do. Never in a million years dreamed of being an entrepreneur or a retailer or anything like that. And at the time, I had been in Bath and Body Works. It wasn't in Utah yet. We were living in Utah. Bath and Body Works wasn't there yet. So I was aware of Bath and Body products and how big that could be. I knew I wanted to do something that would be fun for girls because I had 4 of them, and I wanted to have a place where they could work, where their friends could work, where it would be fun. And so I decided I wanted to open up a bath shop with your friends. So then I was deciding on what am I going to sell? Where am I going to find it? And long story short, I ended up opening up a store in the mall and selling bath and body products. Now, a lot of you are going, what am I going to do? What am I going to sell? Where am I going to have products? I had no idea where I was going to find products. What I ended up doing was just kind of research and checking out places that you could buy bath and body products wholesale. And that's all I ever intended to do, was just sell products wholesale in my store and just have it be a bath and body shop. So I found 5 or 6 bath and body lines. I had Crabtree and Evelyn and Smith and Vandiver and Upper Canada and some of those big brands that you can buy wholesale. And as you know, when you buy wholesale, you get a double the cost and you just make that money. So that's all I intended to do. But what happened is the store really took off and the sales just started going through the roof. And I'm like, wow, I am really onto something. But the interesting thing is everybody was coming into the store and saying, do you have pear? Do you have plumeria? Do you have freesia? Do you have all these fragrances that I could not buy? And that was fragrances that Bath and Body Works sold. So I'm like, I have got to do products that people want, even though I couldn't buy them. So lesson number 1 here, listen to your customers and figure out how to deliver what they want. So long story short, again, what I did is I researched and tried to figure out how can I, because I'm not a chemist, I don't have, manufacturing or all the resources to develop my own line. How can I develop my own line? And it's pretty funny how I started. And you're all looking for ways to start. You got to figure it out. Everything, as Marie Forleo says, is figure outable. Well, I started buying gallon jugs of unscented. I bought the fragrance oil of the fragrances that I wanted, and I would pump it in and shake it up and put my label on. So I had 6 SKUs of lotions and 6 SKUs of shower gels that were my own. And it was really funny because once I started selling those, they started taking over the sales in my store of the other things. So I'm like, wow, the customers have spoken. This is really what they want. So then I'm like, I've got to be able to scale this up. I've got to be able to have more, products to sell in here. And in the meantime, one of my sales reps that I had bought all the products from, he came into my store to visit. And it was kind of funny. My products were sitting at the front of the store and he went up and he picked up my lotion and he's like, wow, next time that you print your labels, leave University Mall off because you need to take this line national. He could see the traffic in the store and he could tell by the sales on the products he was selling me that they had gone down. And so I'm like, wow. So he left and I start dancing around. I'm going national. I'm going national. I didn't know how I was going to do it. I didn't know how to figure it out yet. But I'm like, I just started digging into and trying to figure out how can I develop a line of products and scale it up in such a way that I could manufacture it and, sell it wholesale. So I discovered a chemist in San Francisco Bay Area. I went out and visited him, worked with him in his lab, and we ended up developing a line of products. I think it was 8 lotions. It was 8 lotions, 8 shower gels, in all the fragrances that were really popular, like at the Bath and Body Works. But I made mine different. So this is one of the things you want to be doing as you're developing products. You want to have your own unique selling proposition. So even though it was the fragrances and the things that customers wanted that they couldn't buy, I did all mine all natural. So I didn't have mineral oil, alcohol, lanolin, anything synthetic in it. I wanted to make it so that it was different so that if Bath and Body Works ever came to town, that they wouldn't put me out of business. So I had my own unique selling proposition. So you want to be thinking about that. That's one of the things as you're developing products, you go, okay, how can I differentiate myself so that there's no competition or that the competition isn't, it's not just a Me Too brand. So you want to do that. And that was really important for me to do. And so that's one of the other things I'd say. Mentors, and I talk about it a lot, but mentors are so important because somebody knows what you need to know. And I found I just called and called and called until I solved the puzzle of how do I manufacture? How do I find products? So I ended up working with this chemist and developing all those SKUs that I could take out onto the national level. So once I got the products all developed, I decided, okay, I'm going to go show these products at the Dallas show. And I assumed, and for those of you that want to do trade shows and go wholesale, I assumed that I was going to go to the Dallas show and I was going to come home with so many orders that my briefcase would be overflowing and that I would just do so well. And I had put so much money into getting the products ready. I printed a small catalog. I had my price sheet. I made a few posters. I shipped all the samples to the show. And guess what happened? Bonnie knows the answer to this. It snowed. There was an ice storm in Dallas. And for those of you that know that area, they do not have snowplows. They're not used to that kind of weather. And I literally came home with hardly any orders. Hardly anybody showed up at the show. It was a big, huge flop. I thought for sure I was going bankrupt. I just thought for sure I was, never going to make it. And it just scared me to death. And so, you contemplate, oh my gosh, am I going to make it? Is this even a viable idea? What do I do? And so I decided, okay, I'm going to go do one more show and give it one more shot. And so I rented a booth at the New York show thinking, okay, bigger city, bigger show. I'm just going to do great. There's going to be, tons of orders at this. So I fly out to New York. I go do the show and lo and behold, no orders. And it was a busy show. There was a lot of people, but this is one of the interesting things. I didn't know until I was on the plane coming home. And this is how you learn things by the school of hard knocks. And another reason why you want to work with people that know the business, because I didn't realize New York was not an order writing show. New York was a show for contacts. And I learned that the money is in the follow-up. I came home and I started calling every single person that had visited my booth. I started sending out catalogs to everybody because when they're walking big shows like that, they don't want to carry things. It's too heavy. They're just kind of scoping things out. They're checking it out. But it was one of the things that was a real pivoting moment for me because it was like I thought about quitting. And I know that there's a lot of people. I even have a client right now that's frustrated, but things happen. You just have to keep plugging away. And you've all seen that cartoon where the guy's digging through underneath and he's this close to breaking through the wall and he turns around and leaves. It's like, you just never know where that point is. So that's another takeaway here is you just don't want to give up. You just want to keep working. Because what happened for me is I came home from New York, like I said, and I started calling. And all of a sudden I started getting orders and I'm like, oh my gosh, this really is going to work. And it just, that pivotal moment where all of a sudden, it wasn't huge $1 million orders. It was, independent retailers ordering $100 here, $300 there. And it just kind of added up. So you just keep working and you don't give up and you just keep going. So then I'm like, okay, I need to figure out what I'm going to do next to go to the next level. So
okay,
then,
hold on one second. Yeah, I'm going to, you know me, I've been taking notes.
Yep.
So I'm going to have you back up and fill in some of the holes for people.
Okay.
All right. So, okay. When you talked about, you had X number of SKUs. So like, is that different fragrances? Is that different colors? Products. What is that?
Different products. Each bottle of lotion is considered a SKU. And I probably should clarify that. Yeah. So if I say something like that, that's the lingo that people aren't aware of. So yeah, each SKU. So thank you, Bonnie, for doing that.
Okay. So you started out with, was it 6 or 9?
In the beginning, it was about 6 or 8 and lotions and then 6 or 8 shower gels. And then when I finally did my line and took it wholesale, I had 8 fragrances in lotions, shower gels, bath sprays, bubble baths, and bath salts. So,
okay, so you could do like a
whole family of products. And I'm going to get into products in just a bit because I'm like kind of getting into the nuts and bolts of how people can find ways to build their business and how they can find resources to develop products. So yeah, we'll get into products just a little bit later, but yeah, that's exactly, Bonnie, what it was. It was like in each fragrance, 5 or 6 different applications so that you could have a family of products, and then all of those labels kind of matched within the grouping.
Right. Okay.
You know,
and when the man went in your store and he said, next time take the label off, what label did you have on it first?
I had developed my own set of labels, and the name of my store was For Everybody. And then I'd had For Everybody at the top. Then I'd have a little picture of like a pear and a, you know, whatever the fragrance was. And then down at the bottom, it would say body lotion, 8 ounces or something like that. So very simple, very cute, but you know, it was just, you know, and you could do that right now, build label or, you know, design labels yourself in Canva. So it's really easy to do with the resources that are available now that were not available back then are just incredible. I mean, it's amazing what there is, because I had to go hire somebody to design my labels. I had to find a local person to do it. Whereas now you could do it or go to Fiverr or something like that. So it's a lot easier now. And I can answer any questions if people want to know, you know, on different things as we go along. But so what I did after the trade shows, then it's like, I need to start finding sales reps, because I'm like, if I want to scale beyond, I knew I didn't want to have to go do all these trade shows by myself and schlep samples and stuff like that. So then the next thing is, you know, what do I do? What do I do to find sales reps? So I just started calling around. Now, this is the part where people are so afraid. They're like, and I was too. I was scared to death to start calling sales reps and try to pitch yourself and sell your line. So I just started picking up the phone and calling. And my first big break came, I found a rep group in Dallas to pick me up. And so all of a sudden I had Dallas and Oklahoma and New Mexico and probably one more state. They were covering 4 states. And the way sales reps work is they work out of the hub. So the hub was Dallas. And then they come in to the hub twice a year for the trade shows. And then they go out to their home states and they're on the road selling. And the group that they work for gets these different lines that the sales reps have access to sell. So the big goal, if you really want to scale, is to get sales reps to sell your products. And then you don't have to physically go do those trade shows or be out on the road, because when shows aren't happening, those reps are out showing your products to all the local stores in the area and getting orders for you. And then they just fax the orders in or email the orders in. And then, you know, that's how you do it. So I started calling around. I got the sales reps in Dallas, and then I got a rep group in LA to pick me up. So now I had I had the whole state of California and Nevada. So now I'm like, wow, I have about 6 or 8 states in the US covered. And I did that for probably 6 months, just working with those sales reps and doing my own orders online and, you know, that type of stuff. But then
how did you find the sales reps?
What you do is there's trade shows, you know, that happen. And the showrooms, like, for example, the LA Mart is one where the sales reps worked out of, and the Dallas World Trade Center is one where they work out of, and then you have the Atlanta Gift Mart. So there's wholesale showrooms throughout the U.S., and those sales reps are there. So if you're trying to do detective work, what you would do is go to that website of that showroom, or the LA Mart, or you'd go to the Atlanta Gift Center, and then you would start looking at the different showrooms. If I were to do it today, starting over, that's what I would do. I'd start with Atlanta because it's the biggest, and I would go and I would look at the showrooms, and I would see how they're laid out and see the rep groups. And then I would look at the different lines that the rep groups have, and I would try to find products, you know, or showrooms where my product would fit and be a good mix, where there wouldn't be a big competing line. Mm-hmm. So that's the way I would do it. And the thing is, people are so scared to call. Like, I was so afraid to pick up the phone. I remember just shaking in my boots. But the thing that you want to remember is they want to find lines as bad as you want to find sales reps. They want to find lines that are going to sell, and they want to find lines where the manufacturers can deliver the products. And so don't be afraid to pick up the phone and ask. It was just one of the biggest things I had to overcome, is picking up the phone. They're not going to put their hand through the phone and grab you and strangle you. And they're not, you know, you're not going to die from calling them. And worst case scenario, they say no. Guess what? You already have the no if you don't have the sales reps. So my big break came when I learned that a big showroom in Atlanta had lost a Bath and Body line. And I thought, oh my gosh, it was one of the biggest Bath and Body lines in the country. And I'm like, that showroom did millions of dollars with that product. And I'm like, I'm just a teeny little line, not even doing, at this point, probably only, gosh, not even close to $500,000 at this point. And so I got brave. I heard that there was an opening. And this is one of the lessons too, is opportunities only come along once in a lifetime and you don't want to miss them. So I was scared to death, but I bought a plane ticket and I took a red-eye flight to Atlanta because I thought, you know what, they're going to be trying to fill this space really quick. And I was at their door at 8:00 in the morning. And I go plugging in there with my briefcase and just all my samples. And I was scared to death. And I'm just like, oh, but you know, it's the best thing that I ever did because I ended up talking to the person that ran the showroom. And I said, I'm looking for the person who makes decisions on what lines go in this showroom. And so I met with them. I left all my samples. I didn't get a definite yes. It took like a week of going back and forth and talking to some of their big sales reps. And the one big thing, I was scared to death going home because they said, we don't want to necessarily replace the category of Bath and Body. We want to replace the dollars. And so I'm just like, oh, they may not take me because I'm such a small line. But anyway, bottom line is about a week later, after going back and forth, that showroom picked me up. And I was so excited because what happened after that, Atlanta was one of my biggest shows. And what happened after that, sales reps from all the other trade shows, they go to Atlanta to find out what's new and what's the latest and what lines are doing well. And so it opened up the door for me to have showrooms in the rest of the country. Like the sales reps from New York. Remember, I went and did the New York show. I didn't have sales reps. All of a sudden, the New York show, there was a rep group that wanted to pick up my line. And then there was somebody from Minneapolis that wanted to. They were based out of Minneapolis. And then there was somebody in Kansas City that picked it up. And bottom line is, within 6 months of going to Atlanta bravely and jumping on an airplane with no notice, no invitation, no appointment, and going out on that limb, it opened up the door for me. So by the end of the year, I had 15 wholesale showrooms and 150 sales reps working full-time selling my product. And it was amazing after that because it just took off. But what that took, you know, the takeaway from that is it just took consistent, persistent action. And, you know, when I wanted to give up, to not give up, to continue going. And so after that, it was just, you know, continually training the sales reps and working with that. But going after the accounts, I know a lot of people, it didn't start off with big accounts. It started off with independent retail accounts. You know, there at the time, there was a lot of like Hallmark gift stores, stuff like that. Those are the kind of stores that the sales reps were calling on. So then after the sales reps are taking those smaller accounts, I decided I wanted to go after the bigger accounts. And so I started calling up the bigger accounts. And, you know, if you listen to most people who are in this industry, in this space, they all have similar backgrounds to the one as mine. You know, you start off small, you never think it's going to get there. And it's just, you have to stay with it and take the rejection and get turned down and just call or work any way you can. So one of my big breaks into the big box retail arena was Mervyn's. They're out of business now. At the time, they were about 230 stores. They were based out of California. I thought they're in the West. That'd be easy for me to call on and to see. So I started calling them, and I called them. I can't tell you how many times. And you just have to learn the tricks of getting past the gatekeeper. Mm-hmm. And you don't want to leave a message every time because they have caller ID. So you don't want to be totally obnoxious, but you just call until you can get them. And you can get, now there's resources available where you can find buyers' names so much easier than it was back then because you have LinkedIn. And buyers love having their titles. So of course on LinkedIn, they're going to tell you what store they're with. Mm-hmm. So you just call. So that was my first big break. And it's amazing when you get the one big break, this is the other takeaway. When you get one break, it opens up others. So you look at the sales reps in the showrooms. I got the one break with the Atlanta, and it opened up the other groups. If you, same thing with the accounts. So I got the Mervyn's break. And once I landed in Mervyn's, then other accounts started looking at my business. So then you can start saying, okay, I'm in Mervyn's. And then it's like, okay, I'm in Cost Plus. Now I'm in Kirkland's. Then I'm in.
So it's kind of like, it's like on Shark Tank when they say you have proof of concept.
Yep.
By getting the one showroom, you had proof of concept. By getting Mervyn's, you had proof of concept. And you kept getting a different proof of concept at a higher level.
Exactly. That's exactly what happened. So it's like you just don't want to miss those opportunities, and you don't want to let fear hold you back. Because one of the things that for years I had a little thing on my computer that said, fear is false evidence appearing real. You just don't want to let the fear hold you back, because so many people, I talk about this all the time with my clients. So many people don't do it out of fear, and you just can't let that hold you back. If you think about the statistics, and I've said this before, out of the people, say, for example, that have products, 2% are going to really, really go for it. 18% are going to, and then 80% are going to go, I want to, but never really do anything about it. And that statistic pretty much holds true in most things. So you want to be part of that 2% who just really goes after it and goes and tries. Because I was just a mom raising kids living on a farm. I never in a million years dreamed that I could build an 8-figure business. But looking back and kind of peeling the layers back and looking at it, it's just forward motion every day, just doing a few things and then not letting the fear overcome you and just getting out, because that's when you grow. And it's like once you step out in that challenge, now picking up the phone and calling people doesn't bother me. I could call up showrooms all day long, but back in the day, it was pretty scary. So what happens is once you conquer that fear, then you move on to something else and you just keep going forward motion and keep growing.
Let me ask you this. When you got your first sales rep, how did you pay them? Were they paid on commission only, or how did that work?
Sales reps are paid on commission only. So you're not any money out of pocket. And you don't pay them until you get paid. So that's another thing too that helps. They get paid typically 15% of what their sales are. And on key account orders, most of the key account orders I had, we handled in-house. But the key account orders that you do have sales reps on are typically 5% because they're bigger orders with smaller margins. And so, and I'll tell you this, every commission's negotiable. So when you're starting out and you're working with somebody to represent you, typically the starting rate, if they're in a showroom, will be 15%. If it's a smaller rep group, you can sometimes negotiate that down. So everything's negotiable. You can work that out. But yeah, you just kind of conquer the fear and move on to the next thing. Then it's like working with manufacturers and getting better pricing and all that kind of stuff. So somewhere along the way, Bonnie, I did not say that I started off with bath and body products, but what happened with Mervyn's, after I'd been in Mervyn's quite a while, Mervyn's said to me, we want candles. And I'm like, oh, I don't do candles. So I hired a candle company that was local there in town to pour my candles for Mervyn's. Okay. And the night before they were supposed to start pouring, they canceled and said they couldn't do the order. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I'm like, well, you guys just put me in the candle business because I am not going to say no to delivering this order. Mm-hmm. And so it was crazy. We were pouring candles in the barn. We had the apple bins tipped upside down and just pouring them. We kind of figured it out. And so as we mastered that, we just moved into the candle space and doing line extensions there. So before you knew it, I'd say within 2 years, candles had turned into 95% of my business. So that's the other thing. You've got to be able to pivot and do what it takes, because entrepreneurship is hard, but it is worth it. And so, yeah, that was one of the things that we pivoted into candles. And I never dreamed I'd be, like I said, an entrepreneur. I never dreamed I'd have products, never dreamed I'd be in bath and body, never dreamed I'd do candles. But by the time I sold my business, we were probably one of the very top candle manufacturers in the country. And, we started pouring candles in the barn. And then as the orders came in, we just ramped up you bootstrap it step at a time. When the orders started coming in that were more than we could hand pour, that's when I started going, okay, I got to set up a line where we can pour and automate. Mm-hmm. And I started calling around again, trying to find engineers that could help us set up a line and help us pour. And we started with one line. And I remember that one line, driving in the warehouse in my car going, oh my gosh, I cannot believe I just rented this building and I'm going to put a line in. And it was like 5,000 square feet. By the time we sold the business, I think it was about 125,000 square feet with all the buildings that we were in. But we were still in that same building. We literally went from the end and just kind of kept moving in till everybody moved out, till we were in the whole building and then the building across the street. So it's amazing where you get one opportunity and you just kind of jump on and pivot to, the next. Mm-hmm. But to think a handmade bath and body product could turn into a business like it did. And nowadays with the internet and with resources available, it's amazing what you can do and what's out there and the access that you have to things. And China has just opened up with, it's so easy to import from China. Back in the day that I started going to China, it wasn't that easy. I mean, you didn't even have the internet over there. You couldn't use cell phones over there. I had to call home on a payphone when I checked in there. So yeah, it's funny. So one of the things that I was going to say is when you start, passion can get you started. But once you start to grow, if you want to build your business, it's the strategy and systems and the hard work that are going to get you there. And I learned this from one of my mentors too. As I was in Atlanta after that first really big show, the showroom owner really kind of took me under his wing and he said, "What are you going to do to anniversary this big show?" And that just really hit me because I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't just be celebrating in the success all the time. I've got to be thinking about what am I going to do for the next. So part of that strategy and systems, that goes with your products, that goes with your sales, that goes with your marketing. And that's part of what I want this show to be about, is teaching you and helping you learn those systems and strategy on those things for your products, for your sales, and for your marketing. And with the products, I learned, and it was so good that he said that to me because it really made me dig in. And I went home from that show and thought, okay, I've got to be thinking right now, the minute this show is over, the next show. And what are the buyers going to want? Listen to your customers. And I started researching trends and studying what trends were. And I learned that if you study trends and learn what is really popular in fashion, that it trickles down into home decor. So I could predict what the designs were going to be so that we could design our labels and our wax colors and all that around those trends. And so I'm really excited to be able to help show you all some of those trends. And if you look at Brandon, even what his business has done, he's incorporated that now. You look at where he was a year and a half ago, and he's put the systems and the structure and the trends in place. And that kid's going to hit $1 million this year. I'm pretty sure of it.
Well, and now he's got the $5,000 warehouse space.
Yes, he does. And I'm just like deja vu going through. But it's fun to watch. Yeah.
Okay, so I have all my sticky notes. I keep pulling off another one. I have them all lined up with all my notes here. So one thing that I keep hearing is when you came across something that could have just stopped you in your tracks, you didn't let it stop you. So the first show, it doesn't snow in Dallas, let alone ice. Just doesn't happen, but it happened that day.
Right.
But you didn't let that stop you. Then you tried New York. You thought that was going to be sales. Then you found out that it wasn't going to be sales regardless. You didn't let it stop you. You got on the phone even though you were scared to get on the phone. Then another one, I think, would have stopped most people. If those two didn't do it, the people saying, oh, yeah, by the way, we know we're supposed to pour these candles for you. We're not going to. I think that would have put most people out of business right then. And instead, you just propelled yourself into the candle business when you had no idea of doing that.
I'm telling you, I'm lucky that it works the way it did. Because just getting into it and pouring candles. But yeah, you have to research it, because I learned one of the things along the way. It's chemistry for candles. Every candle has its own dye, its own, fragrance. It's the wax, the wick, it all blends in together. But, the resources are there to learn. Somebody knows what you need to know. And I just kept telling myself that. And you don't know what you don't know until you know. That's another one. You just keep plugging away. And so there's things available out there to learn. And that's why I just want to encourage everybody, as you're developing your businesses, ask. Somebody knows what you need to know. They really do. And there's a way to find it, especially with the internet these days, and especially with the people that are willing to share. Because back in the day, I'm telling you, I just had to research like crazy to try to find and pick up the phone, and things just weren't available like they are now. So.
And so it also sounds to me like, and then somebody had a question about how many employees you had when you sold the businesses. But it also sounds to me like you didn't wait to be perfect. You didn't wait until everything was just so.
Nope. You start, because then you find out what the market says, and that's how you find out things work. So to answer how many employees we have, we started off with just me in the kitchen and the kids. And by the time we sold the business, we had 260 employees. So yeah, it grew pretty big. But yeah, and one of the things that I learned too, so you can't be afraid, and you can apply it to a smaller business too. I would mock up samples. So you know how I said there's buying seasons and there's trends. So the big buying seasons are January and July. So the minute January was over, I started working on the July one, so that I was always working ahead, because the big buyers will buy 6 months to a year ahead. Mm-hmm. So I was always looking at it. So if I knew that a buyer was going to buy in July, like for example, say Kohl's, or say, let's even go a smaller one. You'd fly out or talk to them, show them what you have. Even if they put an order in, it's typically not going to be for 6 months. Okay. So one of the things that I did is I started mocking up a lot of products to show them. So I was always going, okay, what can be new around the trends? And you never know what's going to sell until they say yes, or until the customer says yes. Because so many times I would develop something and think it was going to be a home run, and it was a flop, or something that I wasn't so sure of that I thought would be a flop would be a home run. So you never know. So you have to be willing to put things out there, and you have to be willing to see it flop or see it be successful. And you can't be so in love with your products or your lineup that you can't realize when they've had their down cycle, because every product goes like this and then it goes like this. So you always have to be doing new. So if I had a line, for example, say my home baked candle line, that was all food flavored fragrances, say I probably had 36 fragrances in it. I would always look at, before the new buying season, what's working, what's not. And I was always culling the bottom off. I would discontinue the bottom and launch a few new ones. So that line was there. So as you're developing your products, be thinking, how can I have a family or a line of products where I can, so things go together. Don't just have one random thing here, one random thing there. Have kind of like a family, like I did with the fragrances in pair. I had the lotion, the shower gel, the splash, the bubble bath, and the bath salts. So be thinking, how can I have a little family of products, and then see which ones go to the top and which ones don't. So you can always be changing. So what I would do is start working on the July show and be mocking up products, start showing buyers and see if they liked it before I ever even went into production. Sometimes I would go exhibit things at a trade show where I'd never even manufactured it yet, just to see if I could sell it. Knowing if it worked, I could go home and manufacture it. So as you become more sophisticated with your business and understanding the buying cycles and the trends and how they worked, you can do more of that. And then you're not investing all this money in a product that, what if it flops? What if it flops? What if it didn't sell? And you know what? If I would have said, I'm a bath and body company, I'd be out of business. I pivoted to candles, and I pivoted before we sold the business. We had jewelry. We had home decor. We had scrapbook stuff. We just kind of pivoted. I always said, we're going to go where the business is going to be, not necessarily where it's at. So as a business owner, you want to have your eye on the future and your eye on trends and your eye on what's going on. And it's amazing how the news and different things can affect where your business goes. You know, it's like after 9/11, we did a God Bless America candle and gave the proceeds of that to the Red Cross. You know, those types of things will help promote and build your business. We always did
rather than
marketing.
Just saying, these are the lines that we have right now.
Right. It's called jumping on opportunity, where you can be of service and give back, but you don't want to miss opportunities. And if you look at the businesses that are successful, they always have 6 or 8 things in common. And one of them is you go where the business is going to be. You stay informed. And I read so much. I was always reading like the Wall Street Journal. I was watching the stock market. I was reading magazines and trade journals, trying to stay on top of the different accounts. And then one of the things too, as you start to become educated and learn, because like I said, you don't know what you don't know until you know. I'm to the point now, I can walk into, say, a Walgreens or, any store, and I can go look at their candle line because I know that space really well, even though I've sold my business and I'm not in the space anymore. And I can look at their layout, say go to Target or whatever, and you'll see Target will have do they have 36 feet of candle space? But you can go through and see the red tags where they're discontinuing things. Mm-hmm. I can say, oh, okay, that didn't work, that didn't work, that didn't work, or it's seasonal. So then you go, okay, right. Be aware of that as I'm developing products, or be aware of that as I'm selling products. Or if you see a manufacturer where the whole entire line is being discontinued, that's an opportunity, folks. Watch, because that space, that buyer has to fill up. So as you're in stores, start where you are. If you're wholesaling and you're going in a boutique and you're going in these smaller stores, look and see, where are the opportunities? Are people, are they discounting? Are they closing out? Are they, where are the opportunities in that store? Mm-hmm. So that's just one of the things.
Well, and somebody had a question about how do you find wholesalers? So we need to answer that one. But okay. This makes me remember, so my son, who is now 18 years old, when he was 9 years old, he got into making duct tape wallets. He taught himself how to make duct tape wallets. And he had a system down. And yep. He had a cutting board and a ruler and a pair of scissors. Those were all of his tools. Yeah. And he knew exactly, how long the script should be and all of that. And so someone we knew, it wasn't really a friend of ours, it was kind of a friend of a friend, had a local pharmacy, just a standalone business that she owned by herself. It wasn't CVS, it wasn't Walgreens, it was just her pharmacy. And so I asked her, because I noticed that she had, it looked like some handmade products. And I said, would it be okay if Sam came in and did a pitch for you? I said, it's totally okay if you turn him down, but it'll be his first pitch. And then, and then he'll have more confidence to go from there. Well, she didn't turn him down.
Yeah, they don't. They want stuff.
Wallets. And then he now when he would go to, it wasn't trade shows, but when he would do craft fairs and things, he would have a little sign as seen in Jennifer's Pharmacy.
Yes.
And he was the only one who, a child made product in that pharmacy. So like you said, you don't know. And it's not like she had a bunch of empty space. She didn't. We just tried.
Yeah. And that's all you have to do. And you can go into any store you want and try to sell your products. You just have to ask. But you want to make sure that you've got your systems and your pricing and all that in place before you do that. But yeah, you can. So what were some of the questions? Somebody wanted to know how you find a wholesaler. Right. So I'm assuming they're asking, how do I find someone where they could buy the products at wholesale so they could start an e-commerce store or start a retail store? There's lots of places to do that. There's the gift market is a big one. You can go to Google and say all the gift shows and start looking at gift shows. There's also shows in Las Vegas. The ASD show is a big one. There's hardware shows. There's houseware shows. You just kind of look for those trade shows, and then you can find manufacturers. They all have a book. You can put them in categories. There's also some trade journals you could sign up for. The big one is gift and decorative accessories. There's also Home Accents Today. That's another one. Anyway, you can sign up for those, and they're free online, or you can get the magazine mailed to you, and you can find a lot there. So
now if somebody, also trade journals. So if somebody, so you were doing this in the days before Google, right? Where you could just Google something. But if somebody wanted to, like, let's say they wanted a wholesaler, maybe they wanted to supply to a wholesaler, or they wanted to get, cheaper containers or something like that. Could they just Google wholesalers for jars, or what would they Google?
Yeah, they can. They can. But the thing is, here's the thing to learn about when buying raw materials. There's a lot of companies that are the third person or the middle person. So you want to go, like, there's a lot of people that will be the middle person in jars or in fragrance oil or something like that, depending on what you're selling. Mm-hmm. So you want to make sure you get to the bigger companies where you have the better margin. But just keep looking. But I'm telling you, it's all a process. You start somewhere and you just keep working, better margin, better margin, better margin. So what I was paying for my products when I sold the company versus what I was paying for the materials when I bought it, huge difference. Yeah. Because as you become educated, as you become, one resource leads to another. And like I said, you don't know what you don't know till you know. And one manufacturer leads to something. It's amazing. And once that world opens up, then they all start telling you where they get their materials. So yeah.
And maybe at first a supplier won't deal with you because your order's not big enough.
Some of them won't. So then you have to start to the smaller ones. But then as you get bigger, you can go to the bigger ones. Like there's great big manufacturers for jars, but there's a lot of mid-tier ones. And then also don't underestimate the discounters. Like there's a company called McKernan. I think they're based out of Nevada, but they sell jars that are closeouts for companies. So for example, say if I had a line for Kohl's and then they canceled that line and did something else, that shape of jar I wouldn't need anymore. So instead of sitting on pallets and pallets in my warehouse, I could get rid of that to somebody like a McKernan to get warehouse space for me, but yet they'll sell it much cheaper than a regular jar manufacturer because it's a closeout. So don't underestimate closeouts. Do not underestimate that. And as you're looking for raw materials and things, don't underestimate Amazon. You can get gallons of lotions at Amazon already made up and you could pump them into smaller jars. And then you start, charging by the jar instead of the gallon. You got to start somewhere. You just don't wait. Start somewhere and test the market. And then that mitigates your risk.
Okay. So let's say, and I don't do this. I'm in the service-based industry. I'm just helping Becky. But so let's say that so I go to Amazon and I buy a big thing of lotion. Then are you saying that you then use that lotion and then mix in your color, mix in your fragrance?
You know what? Nowadays with the way things are, you could probably find lotion that's already the fragrance and color you want. And then just pump it in a jar and put a label on it and a lid. So it's the way things are nowadays, it's so much easier to start with less risk. You can start small and work your way up by just starting. The key is start. Do something about it. So anyway, do we have any more questions?
I don't see any on my end, but you might see some on your end. I think you can see more than I can.
Paul says, what do you mean by able to deliver? Able to ship the products is probably what I was talking about. So I think we've covered everything. One of the things I wanted to say is this show is going to be about, like I said, the products, sales, and marketing. And so the goal is to have it every week, be consistent. And so I want to know the questions that you guys want help with. And I want to meet you where you are. So there's a few different options that we have here. Go to my website. I've got a freebie right now on how to build your brand. If you go to the front page, it says how to build your brand, grab the guide. You can grab that. I also have the Facebook group at productbizmadeeasy.com, productbizmadeeasy.com. That will put you in to where you go to join the Facebook group. I'm also doing a limited edition 4-week intensive for people that want to learn how to build their business. So we'll go through your brand, finding your ICA, different things like that. The details are on the front page of my website under limited edition for the e-commerce show. I'm also doing a 1-hour review your brand. Do you have the pricing? Do you have what you need? The line sheet? Do you have the right amount of products to do. So I'm doing a few things like that. I'm also looking for 2 or 3 people who want to be on this show with their products, and we occasionally review their products and go through them. So I'm going to have Paul be consistently on it. We're going to review his business, where he's at, what we're doing to build it up. But I'm looking for a few other people. So you could call it almost like a mini Shark Tank audition, only we're not doing money investing in your business. We're doing, okay, I will help mentor you to get you there. But yet, as part of that, people get to see where your business is and what we're doing and kind of follow you along the way. So if you're interested in applying for that, you can go to my website, BeckyJAnderson.com, click on the tab at the top that says the e-commerce show, and there's a form to fill out there on be in the hot seat and tell us about your business. So I'm just really excited to be back doing this show consistently. And I thank you, Bonnie, so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
For sitting in and saving us, because honestly, this was not going to let me on without a second person in the room. So thank you so much for that. And thank you all for joining in with us today. All righty. No more questions before we go. I guess this is it. We've hit the hour mark, and just grateful to have all of you here. All right. Thanks, Bonnie. See ya. Bye.